You've tuned in to Arm and a Leg and Other Opinions We Like to Give, a weekly podcast hosted by two veterans dedicated to politics, current events, interviews, and anything else they want to mention, but probably shouldn't. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Robbie the Dream Gaupp and Brett Miracle Man Park.
Hey! Thank you, and welcome for tuning in to another episode of Arm and a Leg and Other Opinions We Like to Give podcast. I am Brett Parks.
And this is your boy, Robbie Gaupp.
Man, we have a pretty awesome interview today, pretty awesome podcast. We have a paranormal investigator here, and I've always been the kind of guy that have kind of been fascinated with the paranormal. I've had some experiences with the paranormal, and yeah, we're really excited about today. Before we start, how you been, bud?
Been great. How are you?
You know, it's been raining every day.
I can't wait to get into this podcast.
Oh, man, it's awesome. So we have her on right now. Robbie, why don't you make the introduction of her name, because I can't say her last name for the life of me. I tried.
So our paranormal investigator for the day is going to be April Brzuchalski.
Nice.
Yep, you got it.
She has her own podcast called Freaks and Geeks. That's Freaks with a Q and Geeks spelled the regular way. And I actually listened to it last night. April, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Brett?
Really, really good. It's nice to meet you and talk to you for a little bit. We are really excited that you let us come on. Well, you came on, but you know what I mean. You're going to be interviewed by us.
Now we're a part of each other's lives forever and ever. It's going down on SoundCloud.
Forever. It's amazing.
Forever. Yeah.
So tell me, first and foremost, just give me a little bit of background on yourself. Where are you living right now?
So I'm actually in Newport News, Virginia, part of Hampton Roads, 757 represent. Ooh, ooh. And I work in DC actually for a defense contracting company. So I was military intelligence in the Army, and I've kind of continued that as my professional career, and not so much the paranormal, but you know.
And how did? Oh yeah, what branch were you again?
I was Army. Yeah.
Army. So you were Army.
Yeah.
Robbie's an Army guy. I won't hold it against you guys, but so tell me how you got into this whole paranormal investigating thing. What piqued your interest?
So I was a complete skeptic until I was about 17 years old. I mean, I'd always been interested in it, but it was just something that was kind of there, you know, like I'd watch scary movies or read a book or whatever, but it was never really like something that was top of my mind. When I was 17, my father passed away, unfortunately. It was really quick, really sudden. And it was such a formative time. You know, you're 17 years old. You don't know what to do with your life. You're trying to figure out, you know, like, do I go Army? Do I try and find a job? Do I go to school? Like, it was just a really crazy time. And when he died, it was around midnight at night, and my family lived really far away from the hospital. We lived out in the boonies for sure. And we had to go to my grandparents' house. That was the closest spot for us to actually sleep. So we went to my grandparents' house, and everybody went to sleep. It was around 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4. And suddenly, so I woke up and I couldn't sleep. I mean, you know, that's a tough thing to happen. So
yeah, for real.
I was the only one in the house that wasn't asleep though. So I walked out into the living room and I sat down on my grandmother's couch. I was just kind of processing everything that had happened. And that's when my dad walked in.
Whoa.
Yeah. Weirdest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. And now that I'm older and that I've studied all this stuff, I know what I had was actually what's called a post-trauma event. Like I actually had something psychologically that had happened to me. My body was under so much stress that it may have produced a hormone that allowed me to see this, you know, and it could have been a real thing spiritually.
Wow. Yeah.
Or it could have just been my brain trying to make sense of this trauma.
Right.
But when he walked in, he said to me, and he had his arms and he was shaking his arms at me. And he kept saying, crossed creeks. And he was saying it like he was really trying to convince me of what was happening. and he was trying to convince me of something. I don't know whether he was telling me to go toward Crossed Creeks or to stay away from Crossed Creeks or what. But that was when I was 17. I'm 34 now, and I still am trying to figure out what that was about.
So your dad passed away that night.
Yep.
And then you went to your grandmother's house. You're sleeping. You couldn't sleep. You got up. You went to the living room, sat on your grandmother's chair, and that's when your dad walks in.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like thinking back on it, I couldn't really see his legs. I think in my mind, I made sense of it. And I made sense of like, okay, this is my dad. I could see his face very well though. And I could see his torso, and he just kept saying, you know, Crossed Creeks, Crossed Creeks. So my best friend, she's been my best friend for 25 years. We have a better relationship than most marriages. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But she's actually my co-host on Freaks and Geeks, and she knew that this had happened. So when I think it was my 25th or 26th birthday, I mean, I'd had all these questions and I'd never really kind of explored it. We went to a paranormal seminar kind of a thing just for fun. It was our birthday. Our birthdays are around the same time. So it was for our birthday, and it was just for fun. And we were just seeing what it was all about. And at the end of the night, her and I just kind of looked at each other and we were like, we could do this way better.
Really?
Like she has a background in genealogy. I mean, she's a really strong researcher as well. So, you know, we went in there and we had a lot of questions about like, okay, well, the history of, it was an old jail that we were in, county jail. What's the history of the jail? You know, like tell us everything about it. And they couldn't. And it was like, well, that's kind of unfortunate. Shouldn't you know?
Yeah,
like,
you should probably know that.
Yeah. So that's where we came from. And that's part of why we do things like the podcast now is, you know, we were going through last night, the presidents and their history with the paranormal, all the accounts, and it's all about the history with us, which is why we are geeky.
No, that's good. You know, so I've watched a lot of Ghost Adventures, that show.
Oh, of course you have.
Yeah, and all them. Yeah. No, well, that's kind of like where I got into it, because I was watching it at first. I was like, man, this is fake. This is fake. But then I kept watching. I got to know the characters or the hosts a little bit, and I was like, you know what, maybe. And I've had some experiences in my life, but how authentic do you think most of those shows are, as far as like first Ghost Adventures in particular, and then the other ones like Ghost Hunters and stuff like that?
I think with any of those shows, you have to take them with a grain of salt, just in general. They're doing what they're doing for ratings. They have to make it an interesting show, or else they wouldn't have a show. Right. So a lot of what you're going to see is hours and hours, if not days, of footage that's condensed down into only the most interesting events. And that's something that people always come to us and they don't quite understand. We have a lot of charity events that are public events that we do. And we'll have like a lot of people that will come in, the members of the public that will come in to donate and then do a ghost hunt with us. Right. And they always think that it's going to be bing, bam, boom, you know, like stuff all over the place, chairs flying and, you know, like hearing people talking that aren't really there and stuff like that. And that's just not how it is. That's not real life. It's much more akin to fishing. Really.
Right. It's a lot of waiting around.
Yeah. A lot of waiting around, abbreviated by punctuations of extreme activity. That's it. And I tell them that every time. So Ghost Adventures to me, I love me some Zach Baggins. I do. I am probably not in the norm for paranormal investigators, but I actually do. I think he's very entertaining and I think he's really genuine. I think the thing I like about him the most is that he's not afraid to try new things.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah. I've noticed he's evolved through the seasons as well. Like
Absolutely.
The first season, he was like kind of a prick a little bit, you know, and being really disrespectful to the ghosts and spirits. But whenever as the seasons went on, it seems like he kind of evolved a little bit and matured when it came to investigating and stuff.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's definitely honing his craft. He's had a couple things that were really big failures in the paranormal community that probably normal people don't know anything about. But he backed some technology that was not exactly, it was misrepresented to him. And then it came out that this was false technology, and the paranormal community kind of jumped on that as if they were, you know, vampires. And they were like, oh, this guy is a joke and blah, blah, blah. And that happens. That's part of it. That's scientific discovery. That's what we're trying to do here.
Right. I guess it is kind of a science, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a quick question.
Somewhat.
Now, as far as like, there's a lot of skeptics out there and a lot of people who automatically instantly say, hey, this is unbelievable. How do you go about persuading or trying to say to them, give it a chance and maybe let me show you, is there a way to do that?
I typically don't. So if you are a complete skeptic and you're not open to it, I respect your beliefs. Whatever you want to believe is fine with me. And if you have, whatever, we're very inclusive. So whatever you want to believe is cool. Now, if you come to me and you say, hey, I'm a skeptic, but I'd like to be shown, then I'm going to show you EVPs, which is where the freaks part of our name comes from. Freaks is short for frequencies, right?
Oh,
yeah. Now you
it's
get
all
it.
coming together.
So we show them EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, for those that are uninitiated. Basically, that is where you capture voices that are either imprinted as a result of a voice that you cannot hear. So it's something that's below the tone of white noise, or you can actually have disembodied voices, and you can also capture those on whatever recorder you have. So that's that would be the first step. And then after that, I would try and convince you to come to one of our charity events and have a great time, have drinks and listen to live music, and then come out and actually experience some things for yourself.
So I'm a person, I believe spirits still walk the earth, even like I believe in God, but I believe that, a spirit is here until God comes again and takes everything up, because it even states in the Bible that the dead shall rise and the living will follow. So I'm one of those people who do believe that spirits and stuff still walk this earth. Now, my question is,
We lose them sometimes, so we'll get them back.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Hey, Robbie, we lost you, big guy.
as far as communication with go ahead.
Robbie.
I'm coming.
Ask the question again.
Okay.
One more again.
Okay. So as a person, like I was saying, I believe in Christ, so I believe that, the spirits are still here. As my belief, I believe the spirits are still here until God comes again. God's going to say, hey, he's going to raise the dead first and the living will follow, as stated in the Bible. Now, my thing with that is, how do we go about, as far as if you can hear people and you can feel these emotions and these kind of things, why is it not that everybody can feel that or see that or hear that?
Oh, I think everybody can. I'm one of those, I think that if you had talked to 16-year-old April, I would have been like, that's ridiculous. Like, there's definitely people on this earth that can't experience this kind of thing. But 17-year-old April, who just talked to her dead father, I think that it can happen to anybody. And I think that the more you're spiritually open, the more you'll have those events, you'll have those things. And I think that's how a lot of sensitives are sensitive, is because they have opened themselves up. They've opened up their psyche and their soul and everything to that side of the world. I think that's possible for anybody. So it doesn't, like, just because you don't believe, or just because you maybe you do believe, but you think you're stunted psychically, then that's not a big deal. It's all part of development.
Now, when you said it earlier, you said your father had come into a room and he had spoke to you.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all have a conversation? Did you speak back, or just in shock?
He just said Cross Creeks. I got nothing.
Okay.
Like I said, 17 years. I have lived in apartments just because they are named Cross Creeks. I have gone to, in Richmond, Virginia, there is a plant store, like you just go get roses or whatever, rose bushes. Right. I've gone there. 19-year-old April went there to go get just plants because it was called Cross Creeks. Like, there's a spot in Florida called Cross Creeks, Florida. And one day I'm going to live there. I got to figure it out.
Whew, that's deep. Okay. So other than your father walking in the room while you're doing like actual paranormal investigating, sorry, my mail. So can you tell me like one of the craziest experiences you had while paranormal investigating?
Oh my God, there's so many.
Okay, well, give us one that kind of made you like
get chills yourself.
Feel really cool, and one that made you like get kind of like, oh crap, I better tighten up here.
So I've been scared twice while I was investigating, only twice the entire time I've been doing this. And I've been doing it for a pretty long time now. So the first one was we were at Campbell Mountain, Virginia, and it's a site of a Civil War battle previously. There was a homeowner. This is a private investigation. There was a homeowner there who had been having issues. Her kids were having some really negative things that were happening to them, even scratches, like all sorts of things. And they were terrified, really. They didn't want to go to sleep in their beds. And that's my favorite case. That's my favorite thing to do, because who do you call when your kids are terrified? You can't call the police.
Freaks and geeks.
Freaks and geeks.
That's right. That's a good call.
We are the Ghostbusters. So they called us, and we went out there and we were investigating. We went out to behind the cows, and we roamed around all their land and saw like Civil War like vestments that were there, and all sorts of like trenches and all sorts of stuff. Just the whole place was littered with quartz, which quartz is thought to be a psychic like amplifier. Okay. So that was interesting, and definitely could have had some things happen because of that. But we didn't actually get a whole lot of evidence in the home. Now, country house, right? So there's lots of animals everywhere. We're in the middle of the woods in Virginia. There's cougars. There's all sorts of stuff out there. So my co-host and I are gathering up all of our equipment. We're getting ready to leave for the night. Long night of investigating. We've got our hands full of all this crap that we're carrying, and we're walking to my car to put the stuff in my car. And all of a sudden, I swear to you, there was a cougar bearing down on us, like thundering through the forest, like a herd of wild animals. And we dropped everything, grabbed each other, and were shrieking because something was coming to get us. We were both going to die. For sure, something was going to eat us. It was an orange tabby. And
no.
yeah. We were real embarrassed about that. We were real embarrassed. We thought we saw our lives flashing before our eyes.
In the woods at night.
I swear that thing sounded like a cougar for real was coming after us.
That in your mind begins to play a lot of tricks on
you,
all the time. Like that's one of the things, like when I watch horror shows and paranormal type things, it seems like in the dark a lot of times I kind of feel a lot of times their mind starts playing tricks on them. I'm not saying that they don't hear things or see things, this and that, but sometimes of course they don't catch it on their audio stuff or anything. It's just like they hear it. And I'm like, it could be your mind playing, with you. Because in the dark, if you sit there long enough, your mind will wander and it'll create its own shadows and its own things. So
for sure,
being in the woods, I grew up in the country, so I understand exactly where you could almost sense something else being something else,
Yeah, that's how I felt right after Blair Witch Project.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is a scary movie.
I couldn't go anywhere near the woods. So tell me about number 2. What was the second time you got really scared?
Okay, so number 2, I'm sorry to do this to y'all because, I hope y'all both end up sleeping with somebody at night so that way, middle of the night, you can just roll over and be like, I'm scared. So we were at an abandoned sanitarium in the western side of Virginia, in Radford, Virginia. And it's called St. Albans, which is where my radio network actually is hosted out of. So like that's our main meeting location. But this was way before I ever had the podcast. Actually, this was our first actual paranormal investigation where we were trying to be real paranormal investigators. So this was the first one. So we went real big. And we went to this, this sanitarium, and just like a bunch of dummies. And this sanitarium has a bowling alley in the basement. They have a bowling alley, and they have a boiler room, and they have some bathrooms and stuff. Yeah, it's it's a sanitarium. It's for the patients. It was also a boys' school before that, and there is at least one documented murder inside of the bowling alley, they think, or at least on the grounds inside of the bowling alley is where they think it was prospectively done. But they poured concrete, and so they aren't quite sure, and they've never found the body. It's actually the only murder case in Virginia that has ever occurred where the body has never been found.
Really?
And the person was still convicted. Yes. Because they were able to find enough blood that there's no way that the person could have lost that much blood and survived.
Wow.
So they've never found the body. So they think she might be,
she
might be in the foundation.
Oh,
yeah. So we were there, and we were in the basement, and Carrie, my co-host, and I were getting ready to pack up all of our belongings. We were, in pitch black darkness, just trying to talk to whatever was there and wanted to talk to us. We were with a tour guide, though, because we didn't know how to get around. That place is huge. It's like 40,000 square feet. It's huge. It's amazing. So she was with us. She starts freaking out, this tour guide. She's like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here right now. Something dark is coming. I feel something really negative, like something dangerous. Yeah, she's flipping out. I'm not scared at all because, I'm big Miss Army. And so it's Army strong, not Army smart. So I'm just like, well, that's fine.
So true.
So I'm not freaking out. I'm trying to be as calm as possible. I'm trying to handle the situation and make sure we all get out of there safely. So we all gather up all of our stuff, and we're, packing all of our stuff away. And Carrie walks down to the end of the bowling alley to go pick up a recorder that we had left there. And I swear, I saw a girl standing in a nightgown, like a 19, 20-year-old girl standing in a nightgown right next to Carrie. But I always say this to everyone. I'm so dumb about this stuff that I don't even realize what has happened until way after it has happened.
Yeah.
Like, I just look up and I'm like, oh, that's a girl in her nightgown. Okay, cool. And I go back to what I was doing. And then I just kind of looked up and I was like, why is there a girl in her nightgown? What is this? So I didn't say anything because homegirl, the tour guide, was still flipping out, and she's like, you guys got to go right now. I'm going to leave you if you don't hurry up. So we got all of our stuff, and I'm just trying to keep it cool, trying to keep it calm and collected. Yeah. I'm hustling everybody up the staircase. I have a backpack on. When I go, I'm like third step up. When I go up the staircase, something grabs my backpack.
No.
And yanks me backward.
Oh my God.
I don't mean it got stuck on the rails. I don't mean that. I mean something grabbed onto my backpack. I could feel it grab it, and then I felt it pull. And I, with every strength I had, I grabbed onto the railing, and I was not going backwards. So I powered my way up those stairs. And then once we get up to the top of the stairs, I didn't say anything to anybody because I was the last one, because I'm Miss Tough. Mm-hmm. So I didn't say anything to anybody. Got up the stairs, and I was like, so I just want to tell you all a story about an experience that I just had.
You must have been shaking.
It was what I like to call Code Brown.
Code Brown.
So as far as like paranormal activity and those kind of things, do they come where they can make contact with you at their will? How does that work? Like where they can touch you and feel you, grab things. Do you hear that?
All right, one more time. Sorry.
I said
no, I didn't get it.
I said when there's paranormal activity, when does it? Do they choose whenever they can and can't touch you? Like say that like they grabbed your backpack. I'm sure if there's ghosts, we walk through them all the time, those kind of things. But do they choose whenever they have that power as far as coming out and reaching and touching you and those kind of things?
Well, nobody really knows for sure. I mean, that's definitely something that we're trying to figure out in the field. That's why we exist, is trying to figure out what the limitations are. So there's a lot of people that will say that, like they would have their choice and that they have to manifest enough energy to be able to do something like that in the physical realm. I think that's what you would get from most paranormal investigators. And I believe the same. However, I will caveat that with saying that I think that if they can manifest enough energy to impact us physically, then there must be some sort of way that we can manifest enough spiritual energy to impact them as well. It has to exist both ways. I don't believe that it doesn't.
That's interesting.
We just haven't figured it out yet.
That's kind of like a yin and a yang kind of thing. Like,
yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of what, let's see, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's but BFF, Houdini. It's a lot of what Houdini kind of had as his principles. He didn't really believe in the paranormal, but he believed in the paranormal. Like, he had these principles that he believed in. So.
Wow. Yeah. So do you think that, see, I go a couple ways when it comes to the spiritual world. I feel like there is a whole nother world that is invisible that we can't see. And there's a piece of me that thinks that they can't see us either at sometimes. But then there's another piece of me that thinks that there's an invisible world that we can't see, but they can see us. And they just, either our ears aren't good enough to hear them, our eyes aren't good enough to see them, or they choose not to show themselves to us. I kind of go back and forth on those. Yeah.
Or maybe we haven't opened ourselves up to it enough yet to be able to see that kind of thing.
So do you think not psychological drugs, what's it called? The
stimulants?
Yeah, like mushrooms and LSD and acid. Do you think that is in a way could open you up to the spiritual world, or is that just all in your head and just doing all kinds of crazy stuff?
I have no idea. Wow. That is a great question. I don't think I've ever had a question like that before. I think anything's possible. I think that if you are a spiritually open person and you do drugs, or you experiment with whatever, anything that alters your psychological state, I think that might open you up more for seeing things that may or may not exist.
Do you believe in demons as well as spirits, like the people that have moved on from the living world?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a big hubbub about this in the paranormal community. So you'll get people that believe in demons and you'll get people that don't. But I do believe in demons. I don't think that they're anywhere near as normal as Zach Baggins would lead you to believe. I think that it's an extremely rare occurrence that you would actually come into contact with demons. Although I don't think it's impossible. I think that the kind of person that would come in contact with demons is somebody who is, they've got a lot of issues. They've got a lot of things that they're already beaten down spiritually. They're already not the strongest they can be. They have things in their lives that are kind of like chinks in the armor. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
okay.
So putting on the whole armor of God, right? That's something. So these would be chinks in that armor. I think that you can be more susceptible to a visitation by demons. Do I think that they're as bad and as nasty as Zach Baggins seems to feel? No, I don't. I think that all it takes is a really strong spiritual person to help you kind of pull you up out of that hole that you might be in. So that's just me and my personal beliefs. But
so if there's good and there's bad, so would there be bad paranormal activity as well?
Absolutely.
Like you're saying, because I mean, is that Brett? Is that considered demon type like Brett?
No, not necessarily. So a demon is somebody, it's an inhuman person. It's an inhuman spirit. It's something that has never walked the earth as a human. So that is like saying bacteria and viruses. Like bacteria and viruses are both bad, but you might not always get a virus. It might be more bacteria based. So let's say demons are the viruses, right? So then there's a lot of other activity that can come about that's more bacteria, right? You can actually have psychokinetic energy yourself, and that would give you the energy to manifest things, to make things move around you, to stack things. You get that a lot with poltergeist manifestations. And basically what that is someone who has experienced a lot of trauma or is going through a significant hormonal change, which is why you see that a lot around girls who are either coming through puberty or women that are going through
Menopause.
I'm
Right.
a woman, and I completely lost it.
It's okay. I take mushrooms, and I had no idea what
so
I'm just kidding.
So women that women that experience menopause, you're going to have those hormonal based changes, and you can actually have some real scientifically based activity that is just because of those hormonal changes that elicits a weird response. So you can definitely have bad activity that is bad to you, but isn't necessarily evil.
Right. I have a question. As paranormal activity, say someone dies at a young age, do you feel they stay young forever, or do they age in the paranormal world as well?
I think it's a choice. I think that they get to present themselves however they wish to present themselves, which is why you get a lot of people that say, oh, this is a demon. This is a demon. Nah, maybe it's not a demon. Maybe it's just a jerk of a person. Just like, like when you die, I don't know you that well, but when you die, if you're a jerk in life, you're probably going to be a jerk in death.
He's going to be a jerk in death for sure.
He'll probably haunt you though. So
everybody will love me though.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Every time you get out of the shower, in the mist from the shower, there'll be like just negative things written. I hope you have an awful day.
Like, damn it, Robbie.
For sure.
Wow. Yeah, I have heard that, like, especially I've heard, of course, in these TV shows. I watch a lot of them, and Amazon has a ton of them.
Oh my gosh.
And so much of it is so bootleg and stuff, but I still watch it because I'm fascinated with it. But a lot of these guys are saying that if there's like a little girl or a little boy that you see, that it might be a demon because they present themselves as little boys. And I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I mean, I think that demons, as well as, just spirits in general, can present themselves however they wish. So, it makes you very susceptible, especially when it's a child, because you automatically want to help the child. You actually, you want to, like kind of coddle them and help them to go wherever they need to go or do whatever they need to do to finish up their business on earth. And so I think that that's the most susceptible thing for someone to be.
Right. Now, do you feel that the paranormal, world can succumb into like a person's body and that kind of stuff? Do you believe in that kind of thing? Yeah, like possession type thing.
I do. I think it goes back to that chink in the armor type thing. Right. I think that if you present yourself as a very spiritually strong person, then nothing is going to hurt you. Again, you're going to put on the whole armor of God, right? So nothing is going to diffuse that. Nothing is going to make you vulnerable if you have that armor on, regardless of whatever religion you have. Arm yourself with that, make yourself a strong person. And now if you're vulnerable, then if you are, for instance, drug addicted, then you have a significant vulnerability in your life. And I think that there are some ways for spirit to kind of take over because you have weakened yourself a little bit. Wow. There's that. And then I think you can also physically, they can walk through you, and that's disconcerting when that happens. I'll tell you.
Oh yeah. It's a definite feeling you can feel.
Yeah. You feel very violent. It's almost like violated, and gross. It's like, what is that? Why do I feel like I have a cold, wet washcloth on me all of a sudden? Like, this is weird.
Wow. So that's happened to you.
Don't they say sometimes it's like you'll smell like sulfur and those kind of things?
Yeah, that's primarily if it's a a demon or a dark spirit, then it would be primarily sulfur that you'd smell. Okay.
I just know I've heard things like that. I smell sulfur from a match or
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
Maybe one of my kids. But never in walking, just randomly smell it or feel. I felt awkward before, but I'm never open-minded to think, oh, I just walked through a ghost possibly, or.
When it happens, you will know. There's no question about it. Like it's just such a foreign experience. Like it's more so something walks through you and you're just kind of like, I feel like I need to just get out of this situation because it's like a mist, like a cold mist is everywhere, or like your whole body.
Wow.
It's disconcerting.
So how often do you do your paranormal investigation outings? Do you do it on a weekly basis, on every other day, or how's it work?
So I'll tell you, it's seasonal for the most part.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of investigators that get to hunt more often or less often. To be really honest right now, the only reason we have a show, or one of the major reasons why we have a show, is so that we get more opportunities to hunt. Because when you have a show, obviously people want you to come out and promote the show and do all that. Anyway, but there's a season to it. So I would say around April, things start picking up, and it goes like that all the way through Halloween. Although there are some spots that I would only hunt in the off season, like there's Edgewood Plantation out in Charles City, Virginia. It's absolutely beautiful. It's along Route 5, which is one of the oldest highways in Virginia, or in the US actually. It's got a lot of Civil War history to it. Really cool spot. And there is a beautiful barn, huge, built in the 1800s, that we are able to hunt. And we know that 2 people have hung themselves in the barn. It's always extremely active. And the guy that is there is a big fan of mine, but not a big fan of my co-host. He's called her some names, which is funny because she's so amazing. But anyway, I
have the same problem here.
Yeah, that's true.
People always getting down on you.
Always.
There's bugs, there's mice, there's all these things. So that's the kind of place I would only hunt in the off season, just because at least they kind of stay tucked in when it's cold.
So what's the what is your go-to instrument? Like, what do you know if you can only bring one thing, either tape recorder or a spirit box or anything like that? If you could take one thing with you to one of the most active places, what would you take?
A K2, most definitely.
A K2. Now, what's that? So
a K2 is actually something that electricians use. It's a normal device that you can pick up in Home Depot if you want to.
Frequency.
Well, kind of. It does electricity, so it tests electrical current. So with the K2, it has, I'm trying to think if I actually have one in here. Well, it's like a black rectangular object that has about 5 different lights on it. And the lights range all the way from red to green. Or I actually flip that around, from green to red.
Right.
And so green up until you get to like yellowish is fairly normal. Like that's something that would happen in nature. The electromagnetic field is something that emanates from the Earth's core. That's a legitimate scientific thing. So you would get somewhat of a baseline almost anywhere that you go. But if you are standing, for instance, in Edgewood in the middle of a barn that was built in the 1800s that has no electricity in it whatsoever, never has, if you're standing there and you get something that lights all the way up to a red, which is like 5 milligauss, that's when you know something has just affected the electrical current, like it's affected the EMF around you.
Wow.
So
you pretty much know.
So that's when you start talking.
Yeah, you're like, oh wow.
Yep. And you can do yes or no with that too. So, you have your K2 set up and it's on green. You say, okay, red will be a yes and green will be a no for us. Are you a boy? Yes or no, red or green. Are you a girl? Red or green. So you can actually do a whole session like that just with that one piece of equipment. It's so easy. It's lights, you can't really mess it up.
Yeah. And you can see it.
Yeah. It doesn't. Exactly. Perfect. It's beautiful.
Is paranormal investigating, do you get more action at night than the daytime, or does it not really matter?
No, it doesn't matter. People always are like, oh, we got to wait.
I know. It's like, oh, shut the lights off. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, you don't have to do that.
Okay. Well, say somebody, killed themselves or was murdered at nighttime, is it more active at nighttime than it is during the day? Or
It can be, for sure, especially if it is a residual haunting. A residual haunting would be something that is a memory from the past or an imprint from the past that repeats itself over and over and over. So if you were there, if you know that a woman fell down the stairs at midnight, and every night at midnight there's something weird that happens on the stairs, then absolutely you want to be there for that time.
Okay.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I lived in a 2-story house when I was growing up, and I always heard somebody running up or down the stairs. And I always thought my brother was coming up, or my dad was coming up, or my mom, whatever. And no one ever came up. And I'd always, go out my door. My room was right there, right next to the stairs. And I'd look out. I'm like, what's going on? And I never ever really put it together until I started thinking about it lately. I was like, you know what? That house might have been haunted. We had some stuff happen in that house that if I would have known about that then, like what I know now, I'd freak myself out and kill myself. But yeah, it was crazy. And I think, of course, it was like residual because, I mean, I have no reason to assume that it's residual. It could have.
Brett is a true Ghostbuster. He tries to catch them all the time.
I do, but they always get through the nets. So it's weird. I need a stronger net.
There are actually countries in Asia that believe that you can catch ghosts in nets.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of like the dream catcher that we have here in America. You can catch dreams through that.
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't get it, but
if I seen it, I might believe it. It's a movie in the making.
I mean, the net would have to be moving around and stuff. Believe it, like. Okay, you got a ghost in the net. That's cool. Let him out.
Yeah, that sounds like
people believe in Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So night terrors. Night terrors. Like, what it was not night terrors. It's, I guess you can call it that. It's where people wake up and they're frozen solid. Like there's something in the room. You know about that? There was a documentary on Amazon that I watched, and it freaked me out. I got to be honest, freaked me out because they're first talking about maybe it was alien abduction, aliens come and abduct you and stuff like that, and they make it so you can't move. I see you laughing up there, Robbie, but
oh man,
but then it went over to. It might have been something demonic or some kind of spirit or something. And I was wondering if you had a take on that, if you had a theory, or if it's just kind of like, whoa, it's just too bizarre for me. I watched it. It freaked me out, man.
Hold on. Okay.
Did you mean?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, it was, so sleep paralysis.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Sleep paralysis. Yeah. So sleep paralysis is an actual physical phenomena. Like it happens. It's a scientific thing. Like I keep saying, it's scientific. But these are all things that like a doctor has proven and has been like, oh, okay, well, it's just because you were still in this particular stage of dreaming, and therefore your body was illy prepared to wake up, or whatever. Your muscles didn't have whatever they need to move. I don't know the exact cause. I'm just spitballing right now from whatever I've read in the past, but I think that it's just like the presence of demons, right? So like, yes, I think that there could be spirits that actually do manifest and do impact you that way. However, I think that it's extremely rare. And historically that would be the incubus and the succubus that would be affecting you that way.
Right.
And that would be
incubus being the male demon
right
that has sex with you, the succubus, the female demon.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. Well, siphons your energy out.
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still, yeah, you're right, but they aren't just like, doing it to have ghost babies. They're doing it to siphon your energy. That's the whole principle behind the succubus. So, funny enough, who actually had a succubus?
Who?
Attack, I guess you could say. Dan Aykroyd.
No
way. So that scene that he has in Ghostbusters, right? But the scene in Ghostbusters where he's laying on the bed and the ghost woman kind of like goes up the bed.
Yeah.
Right. That was from that was an actual experience that he wanted to have on film.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, so there's lots of celebrity interviews with him about that, about his experience, and he was like, yeah, we had to get it in the movie.
Yeah, it's appropriate for the movie.
So sleep paralysis could be just a natural physical phenomena, could be a she demon bent on sucking your energy out.
All right, there are a lot of jokes there.
There is. I didn't go there.
I knew you were thinking it,
there.
Robbie. Oh man, this is pretty eye-opening. It's pretty awesome. What do you think, Robbie? Do you have any more questions?
No, I mean, this is something that I've always kind of been a skeptic on. I've been open-minded to it because I always hear people. I love horror stuff, and I like to hear about it and watch it and those kind of things. I mean, a lot of times I'm like, when people are telling me their story, I kind of read them because I can tell sometimes if people are just, their mind is a racer, so that if they are physically possibly seeing these kind of things, or if their mind is just making up things, is in their life. Because a lot of people are like that. Their minds just race a lot and they create things, really snappy at the moment. So it's like, and it's just about the situation. If you're in a situation where you're lost in the woods, who knows where your mind has wandered. I'm always kind of open to that. And I'm like,
cougars and it's a tabby.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I understand being open-minded, but at the same time, a lot of people are instantly like, oh, it's not possible. And I'm like, well, you never know. It could be,
right.
It could not be, but we'll have to go from there. One day I'll run into it and I'll see it,
Yeah, well, that's why it's so important. So for the field, you have these people that think that they are rock stars and they go out there and they're, just trying to make a name for themselves and whatnot. But the most important thing really for the whole field is for us to make sure that when we're going out and we're doing these investigations, we treat them all professionally and we treat them with a certain level of evidentiary support. So like when we go out, we immediately do an initial sweep of the house, because if there's a false positive, I want to know that there's going to be a K2 hit in this particular room for whatever reason. And if I can explain it, I have a responsibility as an investigator to perform due diligence and to make sure, it's not just an unsecured or an ungrounded electrical wire that is, maybe one day would set the house on fire. Like, I have a responsibility as a real investigator to do those things. So I would tell you to maybe don't watch so many of the Amazon.
I watch them all.
The free Prime, watch those with a grain of salt. A lot of those are people that are trying to really make a name for themselves. And you know what? Hats off to them if that's what they can do. But for those of us that are in the field that take it really seriously, everything is about evidence. If you tell me that you had a personal experience, that's great. But if you can show me that you had a personal experience, that you had, show me where your hair was pulled, make sure that you have video cameras covering every inch, make sure that you have recorders going. I want to hear it. I want to hear the EVPs. I want to see the pictures, because that's how we get people that are non-believers to believe. That's how we do it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Ouija boards, yay or nay?
A lot of people say nay. I say yay. It's the same as communicating. You're just communicating.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
I was always wondered by that, because I'm like, people always ask about, like, my mom is a strong believer, and I'll say, she was like, yeah, Ouija boards, all these kind of things. I'm like, Mom, they sell them at Walmart for $10. It's a plastic piece of glass. Like, so I mean, I'm not knocking it. I'm just like, if it was that crazy and it opened gates for demons and all these things,
then Hasbro probably wouldn't make it for kids.
Yeah, Hasbro.
Hasbro's the devil.
So it's the same as doing anything else. If you're going on a ghost hunt, if you're going on some sort of an investigation, then you are already opening yourself up. So why not use a Ouija board? There's no reason not to. And then, like I said, as long as you are a spiritually strong person, you have nothing to worry about.
Right. So do you think that these spirits that you do make contact with, you've made contact with a few intelligent spirits, correct? Like, what I mean by intelligent is not residual, like just regular spirits. Do you feel like you personally, do you feel like they're lost souls that just haven't left the earth yet, or doesn't know how to leave, or do you think that when you die, everybody just stays here?
I think that they're lost souls that they haven't left yet for whatever reason. They have unresolved business. They have something that's keeping them here. I believe that they have the option of going wherever they are going to end up. So for instance, we had a case that was in Blackstone, Virginia, so like Southern Virginia. It was a former plantation, and there were a number of slaves there in the past. And we were able to go out. We were able to go to some of the old slave quarters. We were able to, conduct EVP sessions, and we were able to, over the course of several EVP sessions, over several visits there, because nothing actually happens in one night. Like you need to get to know the place needs to get to know you.
Right.
So over the course of several visits that we had with them, we were able to basically ascertain that there were some spirits there that were slaves that were kind of upset that their cemetery and everything had just become completely overgrown with the forest, and there was nobody that even knew that they were there anymore. So Carrie and I and the rest of our group were able to actually go out into the forest and to find the cemetery, and then to create a path to the cemetery and clear out the overgrowth. And I think the activity actually kind of died down after that. So
wow. So they knew they were dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Some do, some don't.
Right. Like the children. Possibly. Yeah, the little children may not know so much. Or...
Well, even older people, sometimes they don't know, they don't quite understand, especially like if they're really old, like they might have fallen down and hit their heads and then not quite understand, like, oh man, I'm not on this plane anymore.
Right. Because who knows if we really, really know when we're dead, do we really know or die? Kind of like in Ghost, where the guy, Patrick Swayze, either Ghost or Roadhouse, where he keeps chasing after the bad guys, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm still alive, and then he sees his dead body.
yeah, that could be that too. I can't think about it without
just
thinking
like
about
that,
Patrick Swayze just giving Demi Moore some love. I can't think about anything else.
It was great.
Classic.
So unfinished business. This is my last question, and then we'll let you go. We're running out of time anyways. But unfinished business. If a spirit has unfinished business, what could that be? Could that be like they forgot to pay the electric bill or something, or is it something like seriously, like, oh, I have this I have to do? Or do you understand?
I think it can be anything. It could be the electric bill. For instance, earlier we were talking about, if you were a jerk in life, you're going to be a jerk in death. It could just be that you hate everybody and you just want to make problems for people. Like it can be anything you want it to be, is my perspective. So anybody has that choice to stick around or not stick around.
Wow. Well, wow, man, I tell you, this has been a treat. This really has. April, thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell us just in your words, your podcast and where we can find you?
Sure. Yep. It's Freaks and Geeks, Freaks with a Q. So FREQS and Geeks, just regular. You can find us on Facebook. We also are starting our YouTube channel. You can also just Google it, and at pretty much every major iTunes, Amazon, whatever, we'll have the podcast. So just Google us and we'll.
Great. Well, thank you so much, April. We really
appreciate you for having me on.
We learned so much. And isn't this the end of Arm and a Leg and Other Opinions We Like to Give podcast? Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, we are on SoundCloud. And if you want to get our notifications, you have to subscribe and click the little notification number, as well as our YouTube channel. Right, Robbie? What's that all about?
You can also like us on Facebook and leave 1 or 2 comments about today's show. Best comments will be read this following week. And if you can, leave a few comments about how to make our show better. Also, tune into April's Brzuchalski's podcast and leave a few comments on her thing. And if you have any paranormal activity that you need checked out, go ahead.
Freaks and Geeks with a Q.
In her podcast.
Once again, I'm Brett Parks.
And this is your boy, Robbie Gaupp.
We are out of here.